Hello, everybody. Today I am going to be making this video of some mocks. So I'm going to start off by doing the what I think will happen mock draft, not the what I would do, because the what I would do is going to look vastly different than this, because the what I would do draft actually I'm featuring the Bears keeping field. Spoiler alert. But okay, here we go. So right now we're gonna dive into this mock draft I made for what I think the top 10 will look like. The Jets are taking Talise Fuega, the O lineman out of Oregon State, at 10. That's really obvious. But okay, we're gonna look at. I mean, it's cropped here as the top 9, so we're just gonna work with what we're given here. So at the first pick, what I think will happen, I think it will be Caleb Williams to the Bears. I mean, Justin Fields is just in a really awkward, weird, icky, unfair situation here because under normal circumstances, they wouldn't have the worst team in the league's pick. They would have had ninth, which is their pick. And if Justin Fields got them that and ended the year as he would, and they didn't have the first overall pick, this wouldn't even be a talking point. It wouldn't even be a thought. You're keeping him and you're improving that roster, a roster which actually has the second most cap space in the league, so Ryan Poles can really get to work there. But that didn't happen. They traded with the Panthers. I'm not going to say Bryce Young was bad or good. We're not talking about that today. We're talking about that the Panthers were 2-15 and the Bears landed the first overall pick. And me personally, I think that Caleb Williams is the next closest thing to Mahomes, but a lot of people have said stuff like that about guys like Zach Wilson, about a lot of different guys that were taken to the top. Caleb Williams is regarded as can't miss. I don't think you can miss with him, but why run the risk with Justin? But we're looking through the lens of what I think will happen. And what I think will happen is the Bears will look at it. An aspect that people aren't really looking at is that having a younger quarterback and guiding a younger quarterback with the same coaching staff is kind of a way to buy GM and coach a bit more time. So, I mean, okay, let me organize the thoughts here. So basically, I think Eberflus, if they run with Fields one more time, think about it. If Eberflus and Poles go with Fields for one more year and it ends bad, it's a lot easier to fire them, right? 3 years, no playoffs, la da da. It's kind of the script. But if you bring in Caleb Williams and there's some growing pains next season, I promise you, if they take Caleb Williams, unless it's like ugly, 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 Carolina ugly, Eberflus and Poles get another year after that, right? But with Fields, that's not necessarily the case. If they choose to keep Fields and it goes badly, it could get ugly. So those are the two men that are really making this decision. I don't think Kevin Warren has much say, the CEO there. So with that being said, that makes Caleb Williams a no-brainer. There's also the slotted rookie contract. I mean, if you're taking the bet on Fields and he's good next year, he's going to want at least Daniel Jones money, if not more. I mean, if you were doing the contract with him today, the fifth-year option will cost you $24 million. And hypothetically, if you want to start the contract talks today for Fields, Daniel Jones is making 40 something. If I'm Justin Fields' agents, the conversations are beginning with Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones is worse than Justin Fields. So why would Justin Fields want less? So the conversations are already starting at Justin Fields. And if you're not ready to say I'll pay Justin Fields 40 a year today, then you got to take Caleb. So that's not my personal opinion, but it's my opinion of what I think will happen. So I think what will happen there is the Bears will stay put and take Caleb Williams there, get that slotted rookie contract, which they'll only be paying them $4 to $5 million a year first pick salary, and you reset the clock there, which I think is really important. You can build around it, yada yada yada, right? I mean, I don't know about Shane Waldron, the OC hire. I thought if they were a lock to get it, they would have hired Cliff. I think Cliff going to Washington makes things interesting. But yeah, and by the way, I'm assuming they're going quarterback. And as you can see, I have it Caleb, Drake May, Jaden. Though that's for my evaluation film, everything I've seen, my opinions. Those are my rankings of the big three. I think that's the order they come in. Okay, so that being said, I think the Bears will take Caleb Williams at 1, but I do not think they should. And I'll touch on that a lot more later in the video. And we're now going to jump to Washington, number 2. So you see, Washington, I think a lot of people don't talk about. I know new regime, blah, blah, blah. By the way, just going to throw it out there. I really didn't like the head coach hire. I really didn't. I mean, all respect to Dan Quinn. I really didn't like it. It was a really meh hire. Defense side of the ball, da-da-da-da-da-da. Blew that usually to Green Bay. I mean, arguably, he was the head coach in Atlanta, obviously, from 2015 2015 to like 2018, 2014, 2018, something like that. Or 2019, sorry. Maybe 2020. Anyway, sorry, that made me sound dumb. I'll look at what he actually was. But he was head coach there for a while, I think 5 years. And you could argue the greatest thing he did as a head coach there was hire Kyle Shanahan as offensive coordinator. Because, I mean, look, he's an offensive genius, and that's where he kind of really got his start play calling. But Cliff Kingsbury could also be a really good hire by him. But listen, back to the point. They have a ton of cap room. It's a new era. I like Sam Howell a lot. I mean, but I just think even in the other mock I'm going to show you guys, which has what I would do if I was just the GM of these respective teams, in this case Adam Peters for the Commanders, I like what Sam Howell is. I mean, you keep him, right? You keep him on the roster. He's slated a rookie contract for still 2 more years, 3 more years. You keep him there, but I feel like Washington's answer for quarterback doesn't lie in the current roster, nor does it lie in free agency. So I think you have to go quarterback here. And look who's there, Drake May. A lot of people think there's a big drop between Caleb Williams and the next guy. In my evaluation, I got Caleb as the best, but I like Drake May a lot, and I have Drake May too, but a close to. I mean, IP Scouting had Caleb at a 94 and Drake at a 93. So put into perspective, that's just a scouting firm. I mean, everyone has their opinion on which ones are better than others. But even just he passed the eye test physically. I think arm talent wise, he can make any throw on the field. Big frame, he can move. I mean, my comparison to him is Josh Allen. I mean, I don't think he is what Josh Allen is as a runner, but let's not mistake it. Josh Allen, I mean, he had a lot of highlight reels at Wyoming, but he wasn't running like he is now in the NFL like he was at the start. So I think he has a lot of upside there. I feel like he can throw on the run. I feel like he's really a prototypical, prospect. I mean, in 90% of drafts over the last 20 years, he'd be the first quarterback off the board. I mean, hell, even the Trevor Lawrence draft, I think Drake May is a more surefire prospect than Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence was slated to be a first overall pick since high school. So I think the Commanders stay put at 2 and draft Drake May. I think that's a slam dunk for them. Great pick, great value. I mean, it's the whole idea, right? New regime, new quarterback. That's how it goes. And a new regime wants a new rookie quarterback because that's a really nice thing to get there. So I think that's really nice. I think the Commanders grab him at 2. Great pick. As you can see there on this thing I set up here, needs QB's number 1. Oh, tight end. They're going to take Brock Bowers. No, it's an obvious pick. Adam Peters can make that pick in his sleep. His work is going to be done in the later rounds. Now, at number 3 is New England. Oh, sorry. Back to Drake May for a second. In my what I think will happen draft, I think that they take Drake May. I also have that there. I would do it. Now, just to make this really clear, this is the what I think will happen draft, not what I would do. Just want to make that very clear. So, what I think would happen is that the Patriots have to go quarterback. I mean, Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins, I don't think they're paying that. Fields, I don't love it. I mean, I like Russell Wilson as a bridge guy because the Broncos are going to have to pay him $39 million regardless, and the league minimum is $1.2 million, and I feel like a team could bring him in, pay him the league minimum, build the team, and Broncos pay the rest. I mean, if I'm Russ, I wouldn't really care that I'm making that because $40 million is going to my bank account, so who cares if it's being paid there? I mean, I've heard people say the dollars aren't always what the dollars are, it's what they represent. So in the locker room, if they're like, this dude's only making $1 million, but he's actually making 40. But anyways, there are some options in free agency and trade options for them at quarterback, but once again, it's the same thing I was talking about with Washington. It's a new regime. In what I would do, I have them taking Drake May. Just to put in perspective, I have them taking a quarterback, and that's what I think they should do. In the way the chips fall into what I think will happen, Jayden Daniels falls there. Just to quickly say, out of those 3 candidates, Jayden Daniels lands 3 just because I feel like he had so much talent around him, right? Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., really good team. Very talented player. He's in the tier with those guys. Well, a slight tier below, but he's still in that upper echelon. It's just he had a lot of pieces around him to help make him look good. I love what he can do, dual threat. I just love him as a player. I'm going to say this. At number 3 for the Patriots, Marvin Harrison Jr. will be very tempting. I mean, I know it's ironic saying this because it's New England, but top receiver prospects almost always hit. I mean, it's funny. You can look at the N'Keal Harry, all these first round receivers they've taken. What was the guy out of Baylor? Tyquan Thornton. That guy was a major miss. But just, it's kind of too early to say. I feel bad saying that. But no, he hasn't been good. He hasn't done anything. Second round pick, done nothing. But they miss at QB a lot. A lot of that could be Bill. But, I mean, we don't even know who's actually making decisions there still. Really weird. Making final say at least. But, yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. will be very tempting. But I feel like you have to just reset your contract. I feel like you get a 4th or 5th round pick for Mac Jones. Zappe's a non-starter. Just a non-player. And Jayden Daniels just comes in. You're getting something good. You're getting something raw, and you're getting something talent to get the fan base and get the team, get the locker room fired up and invigorated. I mean, after that last season, can it be much worse than that? So if there's a year to have growing pains, this is the year. I mean, I could see Russell Wilson as I could really see Gerard Mayo bringing in Russell Wilson as a bridge to bring Jayden Daniels along and then start Jayden Daniels midway through if that's his philosophy. I feel like they're going to be a big run team. Like I love Ramondre Stevenson as a fantasy guy. I really want to grab late third type deal, kind of under the radar guy for full or half PPR next season. But we're doing drafts right now, and Jayden Daniels at 3. That's something that the fan base, that the team, and that everyone in that building can get really excited about. And they did enough. They didn't. They were teasing us that Christmas Eve win versus, or was it I think it was Boxing Day win versus the no, it was the Saturday before Christmas. There we go. Versus the Broncos. That was a pretty crazy game. That one in Pittsburgh gave probably Pats fans that wanted to tank some scare there, but they ended up doing enough to be in the top 3 that they've guaranteed to get one of those 3 guys if they so choose. Now, number 4, I feel like I need not say more. This is one of the best wide receiver prospects in the last 15 years. They need it. It's a position of need. For my 2 cents, I think that not 2 cents, but just my feel is that Hollywood walks in free agency. Right, Hollywood's out, and you just need to build that position. They're clearly committed to Kyler. I'm a big Kyler believer. I think he's top 13, I think he's like in the 13, 12, 11 range for quarterbacks in this league. I might even put him at 10. I mean, it's not popular to say, but I really believe in the kid. And just Marvin Harrison Jr. is a can't miss prospect. You get him in there, you reinvigorate that offense. You have a pick later in the second round, then you could satisfy Gannon, take a defensive guy there, right? Satisfy his need. And yeah, continue to build on what they got going on there in Arizona. Really surprised a lot of people. A lot of people thought they were tanking. They were really competitive, played a lot of competitive ball this year. I think Gannon's building a nice culture there. I really like the Cardinals next season. Just maybe as an over on the win total type of bet, or just whatever, right? Like not to make the playoffs or anything, but to be in the mix late. And in the mix late, it doesn't take a lot to do. Hell, the Bears were technically in the mix late this year, so it doesn't take too much to do that. Now, fifth is okay. By the way, let me just drill that in 4. If he was there at 4 and this was me making the decision, I would take Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. So that is what I think will happen and what I would do. 2 birds, 1 stone. Boom. You'd love to see it. Now, number 5, there's a lot of talk here, right? There's a lot of cap considerations. You could save $20 million in cap by cutting Mike Williams, who just seems to have the injury bug. I mean, good guy, but just he could easily be a cap casualty. Maybe Keenan Allen isn't Jim Harbaugh's cup of tea, and he wants to get younger at the position. So there's a lot of Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze talk there, right? I feel like there's no way they let both those receivers go. They might let one go. Looking more at what I would do, if this was the board right now, I would really give Brock Bowers a look. If it was me, I'd give Brock Bowers a tight look. Gerald Everett is not going to be retained as a free agent. I feel like he'll land elsewhere. And Brock Bowers will be tempting. But I feel like Jim Harbaugh wants kind of an old school tight end. Get in there. Oh, big manly. I'm a block. I'm a do all those type of thing. Not, just big block. Da-da-da, right? And Brock Bowers is not necessarily that type of tight end. More of a Kyle Pitts build. You got to teach in the block. He's like, when Brock Bowers comes to the table for a contract, they'll call him a tight end, right? That's just the economics of it. But I like to call Brock Bowers a weapon. I think he's a weapon. And I would give him a long, hard look. But even if I was making the decision, you got to look at Joe Alt. I would probably go Brock Bowers if the choice is mine, but I think Jim Harbaugh will go Joe Alt. I also like him to add Blake Corum late. If you saw Michigan, they were just a pound the rock team, and obviously that was their strength. But Jim's mo is a little both of the Harbaughs. That's their mo. They want to play that way. They want to run the football. They want to be able to milk the clock and win the game. Because if you look at Jim Harbaugh, I mean, obviously he's conservative in some instances, but he isn't. The way Jim Harbaugh coaches and his philosophy is to win. And how do you win games in the NFL? You got to be able to drain out the clock. Drain out the clock when you have a lead. And how do you do that? You run the football. How do you run the football behind a big guy like Joe Alt? Throw him in there and tackle. I know I sound dumb saying that because he's a bit more of a pass blocking guy than a run blocking guy, but still, is winning football. Better pass protection. Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback in my opinion. I think Justin Herbert may be the fifth best quarterback in football. A lot of people have him low in the top 10, but I really like Justin Herbert. And I think just getting something to go along with Rashawn Slater to protect that investment for years to come is the correct play there and probably the correct pick. I'd probably go Bowers if it was me and this was the board right now. But I really do like Jim Harbaugh to take Joe Alt there. It really aligns with his philosophy. And I think it really suggests what he wants to do to build the football team. Now, the Giants is really interesting here. The Giants is are really interesting here because, listen, the O-line was horrible, but you just added Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal in 2 of the last 3 years at that position, at the offensive line position. And it just makes you think, it's like, wait, like, I mean, you can't. I mean, I personally would like to go O-liner if it was me, but I'm looking at it through the lens of the Giants and what I think will happen. And I mean, you could obviously look quarterback, but I mean, my opinion on the quarterbacks is after these three, there's no one worth taking in the top 15, really, other than maybe Bo Nix late to the Broncos, but I'm not doing that right now. Stay on track. But it just looks bad to ownership, to everyone, and it just is just not a good look if you're taking another O lineman 3 out of 4 years at a premium draft choice. I think all of which are in the top 7 because I know Thomas was 4. Actually, Thomas was in 2018. I'm dumb. That's not the last 3 years. But they've really done a lot drafting at that position. And yeah, Evan Neal's actually starting to look like a bit of a bust. But that's beside the point. Sorry, I got this light over here. Back. So I think they need to address wide receiver. I mean, their wide receiver room is really not pretty. I mean, it's just not good. Slayton can get the job done. Sometimes he's not great. Like, just watching Giants games last season, it felt like, I mean, when Daniel Jones was out, all of it was just ugly. But it really felt like the offense was just Saquon. Like Waller, who I'm a believer and I like Waller, he was really disappointing. I mean, you just have no speed on the outside. Wandale looked okay late, but just And you have to go Dan Jones this year. If you release Dan Jones for the season, that's $69 million against the cap. So you can't get out of that until 2025. You can't rip the Band-Aid off cleanly until 2025. So you need to just invest in what you got. Dable's an offensive guy. I mean, it feels like this pick is going to be on the offense side of the ball, and I mean, Adunza and Neighbors. It's kind of whoever your cup of tea is. I tend to kind of lean a little bit Adunza, but it seems like league scouts like Neighbors a bit more, just more as a one, because Adunze could be more of a gadget guy, JSN, a Addison, that kind of type receiver. But Neighbors is a one. He's built to be a one. He looks like a one. He's a one. And they need a one. So, in what I think will happen, if the Giants are in fact there at 6 and Malik Neighbors is there and none of the guys above are sitting there, I think if any of the 3 quarterbacks are sitting there, the Giants might have to take one. They just might have to. But in this mock of what I think will happen, there's no quarterbacks to be seen out of those big 3. So Malik Neighbors at 6 to the New York Football Giants. Now, number 7 is the Titans. Now, I like Will Levis. We'll see what Brian Callahan thinks of him. I think Will Levis is a bright future in this league. He has a cannon. He's a competitor. If any of you are not too familiar with Will Levis and you want to taste the competitor and the player and the ability he has, I urge you just to watch the highlights of the Week 14 game, I think it was, Titans versus Dolphins. It was a Monday night game in Miami. Wow, that comeback he had, throwing nukes to Tyjae Spears and DeAndre Hopkins, whipping it all over the field, just looking incredible. I mean, all I need to do is watch that game to know that Will Levis has a bright future in this league. So what better to do than protect that investment? He literally got killed last year. That game against Houston, like I'm flipping through red zone, sweating fantasy and everything, and he gets popped by Sheldon Rankins blindside. There's nobody there. Like the blocking was pathetic. And they need an O lineman, and obviously if Joe Alt's there, I'd like them to take that. But I just think Olu Fashanu is really good. I mean, because the thing is, you kind of want a safe guy to protect the investment, but I feel like Olu is really nice because he has a high floor and a high ceiling, right? A lot of the guys like Fuega at Oregon State, like they have the ceiling, but their floor is not the same. This guy kind of has the floor and the ceiling, so it's almost like he can blossom with Levis if it pays off. It's a little high risk, high reward, but I think Olu is the second best offensive line option in this draft, and it's not like they're gonna have to kick a guard, kick a tackle elsewhere, kick someone over to the right side of the line because there's no name there to speak of. So Olu can play wherever he's comfortable, and that's why you grab him there because it's not like, say, the Giants where you're going to have to kick Andrew Thomas the other side, blah, 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 that sort of stuff. Like, I know there's that Petit Frere guy, but he's not even good. So, I mean, listen, for the Titans, you just take him, you play him where he feels most comfortable at, probably at that left tackle position, I guess, and you go with it and use that investment with Levis and roll. Like, I mean, they're probably going to finish last in the division this year. It's a rebuilding year, anyways. Why not just get your young quarterback some stuff? Callahan, the new coach and likely play caller, is offense side of the ball. Just protect that investment, all that good stuff. Pretty easy pick, pretty self-explanatory. I don't feel the need to speak to it. Now, number 8, the Atlanta Falcons and take Dallas Turner, edge defender. Listen, I think it's ridiculous that in top 10 picks 3 straight years, the Falcons took offense, having a pathetic quarterback position, this, that, this, that. Like, Grady Jarrett's getting old. Like, they need pass rush. Like, it's ridiculous. You're just taking receivers. You're getting the kid in the candy store, Arthur Smith stuff. It's ridiculous. Like, you're just, like, jerking your own ego at that point, to excuse the expression. I really didn't like what Arthur Smith did there at all. I think it's just gross. Like, what, Bijan at 8 and you don't even use him? I mean, even if you used him, Bijan at 8, it's a joke to me. I mean, like, it's just dumb. And you just got to take defense there. This is a chance for Raheem Morris, a defensive guy, to say, hey, damn it, let's take effing defense there. They should have taken Jalen Carter at 8 last year. Ridiculous. It was a joke. I'd be happy. So I think Raheem Morris, defensive guy. The offense has so much crap. I mean, this pick would either be would probably have to be D-line, pass rusher, or QB, right? And J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., like that next tier down of quarterbacks, they're just not worth taking at 8. It's a gross overdraft. That is the type of overdraft that'll get people fired. But hell, who the hell knows who's making decisions in Atlanta? Terry Fontenot survives the Arthur Smith firing, but isn't even at the press conference. Like, if that's not a puppet, I don't know what is. So ignore that tangent. But yeah, Dallas Turner, edge. He just feels like a safe pick. Someone to rush the passer. Calais Campbell's going to depart. Grady Jarrett's getting older, as I mentioned. And that pass rush just needs some juice. So just get it some juice. I think that if this shakes out, I was looking, they're gonna have to get their answer in free agency, and this works. So spoiler alert. In my what I would do mock draft, I have the Bears not taking Caleb, meaning Justin Fields isn't available, meaning more quarterbacks are available later in the draft at 8, for example, and the Falcons taking a rookie quarterback there. But if none of the 3 are there, I think in this what I think will happen, I think Justin Fields lands there because if you have the Bears taking Caleb, you have to assume Fields is gone for the second and fourth round, which they're saying it'll take a 2 and a 4. I read a report this morning. Sounds like that's what it's going to be. Maybe a 2 and a 5. Definitely at least 1-2 to acquire Fields. So I feel like the Falcons grab Fields if that happens, right? If they take Caleb, the Falcons are the suitor for Fields. And I don't want to hear any of that Fields of Pittsburgh noise. I think they're just going to go with Russ or go in-house. I don't know. Steelers, I don't like how the Steelers do things. The old school is cool, but you're seeing it die with the Pats. You saw Pete Carroll's out. Like, it's got to be in with the new. So, yeah, Dallas Turner, I think it's a strong pick there at 8. Just get someone to rush the passer. It's a weak division. Like, I like the Saints, but look at it's just a weak division. So just get a good pass rush, get Fields. If they get Fields and Dallas Turner and use a bit of that cap space, I like them to win the division. I really do. Next, you're going to Bears. The Bears. So, in what I think will happen, I really like them to grab a Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Grabbing Marvin Harrison Jr. there. But listen, they in this draft of what I think will happen, they're going to take Caleb. And you want to get something to compliment DJ Moore. When was the last time in Chicago they had a bunch of good guys? They had Brandon Marshall pretty much by himself. DJ Moore pretty much by himself with a bunch of nobodies, right? Like, list goes on. Allen Robinson the second by himself, bunch of nobodies. So I think that I think they go Rome Odunze there. I feel like wide receiver is a position of need. I don't think they're going to go out and pay a wide receiver in free agency. And any other position that they would address there, being the team with the second most cap space, any other position they could address in free agency. But what, they're going to bring in Pittman? They're going to pay Pittman 20-something a year. They're going to pay Evans 30-something. It just doesn't seem realistic to me. Get young, get cheap at the position, address other positions in need, such as defensive line and cornerback, and use the money to pay a guy like Jalen Johnson. Bring in a guy on defense, right? And just be cheap, be offensive with that draft pick and get that. And I know it's not pictured here, but I have the Jets taking Fuega, the O lineman out of Oregon State. I feel like it's a no-brainer. You saw that Jets O line last year. I mean, it just needs an O lineman. It could be any O lineman. That's almost nice how it's not included in this picture I'm sharing, because I made this, by the way, because it just, like, what's the point? Because it's just take whoever your cup of tea is, right? Any alignment that's your cup of tea, it has to be alignment. So this is not my mock draft, though what I think will happen if the draft happened today, mock draft. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Appreciate your time. Thank you.